I jumped into print on demand thinking, okay, I know Etsy, I understand SEO, I've got a solid niche, this should definitely work. And at first, it actually did. My first sale came in less than a week with no ads, no social media, no family or friends buying just to be nice because I didn't even tell them about my shop. And I sold 2 shirts in my very first purchase. And then 2 days later, another order rolled in. I thought I was off to the races. But, well, let's talk about what actually happened. Hey, it's Rebecca Boland. Welcome back to Etsy and Ecom with the Professional Mom. If you are new here, hello. I am so excited to talk to you about my journey in all things Etsy and scaling online business ventures and working alongside you to share our journeys and see how we can continue to grow diversified income streams from the comfort of our homes while raising families. As a quick background, I'll let you know that I did start handmade selling on Etsy in 2020, and since then have also opened 2, if not 3 more digital product shops since then. But I have been so curious about print on demand, and now that I have a grasp on all of the other aspects of Etsy, I have been taking the plunge into everything that print on demand has to offer. However, there is so much to it that I want to bring you all of the hurdles I've encountered as they come up so that anybody out there that is either encountering them themselves or debating whether print on demand is even something you want to try, you have at least one more little voice in your head to help you out with that decision. I decided to start with Printify as my print-on-demand provider because it seems to be incredibly popular with a lot of the Etsy experts I follow, and I had actually dabbled in it a little bit before and had started an account before they even merged with Printful, so I at least had some sense of what they offered. Now that I've been spending time in the weeds about everything they have to offer, I would definitely recommend Printify for anybody out there curious about print on demand. Like I said, it has a lot of gurus out there that help. A lot of people I follow that talk about their Etsy journeys use Printify and recommend it. And there are tons of resources and seller support from Printify, from YouTube, from courses and other creators that you can definitely get any questions answered. That said, let's talk about some of the biggest things that I wish I had known, or admittedly, the things that I maybe had known but just didn't really listen to because I wanted to do things my own way. And I say that because number one is that most Etsy expert sellers, including the ones who have made multiple 6 figures or more on Etsy, all tend to lean towards giving the same advice to stick with one product first. I absolutely did not do this. I am so excited about all of the opportunities inside Printify, all of the products you can put your design on, and all of the fun niches that you could really get involved with, that I am definitely guilty of trying to share with you a do as I say, not as I do, maybe bit of a hypocritical statement here. But if you get too in the weeds on all of the products and opportunities, you're never going to figure out how to nail down just one. It's going to confuse you, it's going to confuse the customer, and it's not going to help you sprint in the right direction. Instead, if you're like me, you'll be kind of crawling one way and then starting a new race and then starting another race, and you're never actually going to get to the finish line. What has been great about Printify is that when you sign up and you jump into the dashboard, right off the bat, when you head to the catalog, they have an entire category just labeled best sellers. They have made it incredibly easy to get started with some of their most popular items. And I can attest that with all of the data and research I've done, that yes, the things that Printify tells you are best sellers truly do align with what we are seeing to be best sellers in the Etsy marketplace. So for instance, this is some incredibly popular t-shirt brands, specifically the short sleeve Comfort Colors 1717, the Bella Canvas 3001, the Gildan 18,000 crew neck sweatshirt. And then outside of apparel, there are some candles, there are some mugs, there are some phone cases, some blankets, some stickers, some tote bags, and so on. But that handful of the first 5 or 6 items I said really tend to be great, profitable opportunities that you can take into most, if not all, niches if you put your own spin on it one way or another. So I would pick just one to nail down, create perfectly optimized listings for, and then try to batch create as many designs as you can for as many different target audiences, gift giving occasions, and try to really go deep into that market as opposed to spreading yourself too thin in several different places. The second struggle I have had with print on demand, and not specifically Printify, but just setting up with a third party in general, is trying to attain the best pricing strategy for my business. If you've listened to my previous episodes, you might be familiar with a little bit of my background in corporate finance. So I actually really enjoy getting out a spreadsheet and digging into the numbers. And I try to apply some marketing psychology with my pricing strategy and try to optimize for getting that green sale button with the line through it, for getting the sense of urgency to my customers to recognize that there's a sale countdown clock ending by the end of the day. And I like to optimize for all of those things. But because I like to think through all of that, the problem is that I might want to change my strategy often. And that is a lot more difficult when you're working through a third-party app like Printify, especially because their prices to me can also change at any given time. So for instance, if I were still hand making my own products, I would buy all my inventory at a time. I would know what those cost when I bought them. I'd be able to create my pricing and send it to a customer. And unless I was buying new inventory daily, for the most part, I would have a sense of what I should be charging. However, when I started with Printify back in November or December, I was trying to optimize listings for what I saw a lot of the top sellers doing at the back end of the year, which included a lot of sellers I noticed increasing their standard price and then running a 40, if not 50 or 60% off sale. So it looked like an incredible deal to the buyers, but ultimately they might have had a plain t-shirt marked up to $60 or more in the first place. So even on a 50% off sale, it was $30. But because they were catching attention with that huge price slash 50% off green sticker tag that Etsy provides on the listing, they were capitalizing on traffic and probably increasing their conversion rate. So when I sat down to first start setting my prices, I decided to do that as well. In one of my shops, I went ahead and set everything at a price that I could always be running a 50% off sale and be happy with the profit I was making. And in the other shop, I did that so that I could always be running a 40% off sale so I could be happy with the profit I was making. I was curious to test the waters and see whether that made a difference in one or the other. But the problem with that is a few things. Number one is that I get mixed and matched too often, and every time I have to switch gears and remember which shop I'm working in and whether it's the one that I price things twice as much or 140% as much, like this, it's too much. And you can't run the race quickly if you're trying to remember where the heck you're supposed to be going. The other thing is that I did decide to go ahead and invest in myself and invest in Printify Premium because on the exact same day, I got a sale in one of my shops for a shirt, and then I got a sale in my other shop for a set of 7 different shirts. So that alone made me say, okay, maybe the work I've put in on the back end is starting to come to fruition. It is spring. I do have more relevant designs. They're not all Christmassy. And that 60 to 90 day window for SEO is starting to peak up. So let's go ahead and just invest in Printify Premium for the year. That's great. That makes my costs go down for each individual sale, for each individual product. However, now I'm catching myself in a place that I have to go back and reprice everything. A, that, and then B, I wasn't in my shops every single day to be running a 50% off sale or 40% off. So to that degree, I'm finding myself not liking this strategy because A, we all know it's a game. It feels fake and silly to begin with. But B, I felt like either I'd have to set my shop up for constant 50% off sales, at which point, are you really even creating a true sense of urgency anymore? Because I was not going to be doing it every single morning for 24 hours only. Or B, I would forget to put a sale on the shop, or it would roll off and I wouldn't realize it. And suddenly my prices were something insane, like $60 for a t-shirt where others have 30, or a similar gap like that. And because of that, I decided, okay, no way, I don't want to do that strategy. Let me rein in my prices. Well, when I got to Printify Premium, I realized that they must have recently also gotten a good deal or enhanced some supplier connections, because all of a sudden that comfort color shirt, if you're familiar with it, if you have made it before, all of a sudden I'm being charged $10 for a single one, where I was pricing at, I think, closer to 15 at cost for one. So all of these factors are adding up, and now I want to go in and hit my Printify shop and say, update all profit margins, but I hadn't set them based on profit margins. I had set them based on my numbers, $32.99, $17.99. Another quick PSA that I want to point out, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then just ignore me for a second. However, if you currently choose exactly which printer you want in Printify, for instance, if you choose to use Swift POD or Swift Pod, that's the print provider I had been using because they had the best prices, they had great average production time, they had great reviews. However, now Monster Digital offers me faster production time and a lower price per product. So I wanted to switch all of my comfort color shirts to Monster Digital. Well, the good news is you can do that with the click of a button. You can just click your products, select all, there's a button to click, more actions, replace provider, Monster Digital, are you sure? Yes, I did that. So I felt like perfect, I did that, now I just have to go back in and change my pricing as I go. Well, stop, run it back, because the other problem is that Monster Digital doesn't have all of the same colors or sizes. So while I was aware that that'd be okay, I probably wouldn't need the 4XL sizes that SwiftPod offers, I didn't realize that some of my colors, like espresso brown, which is actually really important on some of the designs that I make, is not a color option that Monster Digital provides, or at least not at the moment. So I'm hoping that they will. But after I did this huge kind of sweeping declaration to move everything to Monster Digital, streamline my pricing, make things to the point where both of my shops are priced the same way, choose pricing by pricing margin so that I can go in and just easily update it at any time, whether my costs increase or decrease. And here I am thinking I'm moving along nicely. And then all of a sudden I realized, wait, half of my products now are not offered in espresso brown, which is the main color offering for things like coffee shirts you might want to make. So think about that type of niche. And if there's going to be a color that you think is incredibly important to a product you offer, then you might want to double check those before you make any single click commit to changing things. So again, Swift Pod or Swift POD does have slightly higher pricing, and luckily it's not that much of a discrepancy. And while you can still choose to have Printify select for you by doing just Printify choice and they will send it to the best printer available, I had been trying not to do that because I didn't want my costs to be variable. So yes, luckily between those two printers, it's only $1 or so, especially now that I'm on Printify Premium. But that's just my huge PSA to make sure you note if there is a better price, so you're trying to switch providers, make sure that they have the exact same colors and the same sizes and the same shipping time and shipping rates, or maybe just take your time to go into each item one at a time and see if it's really worth making this kind of sweeping change. All that aside, the pluses have hugely outweighed the negative. The fact that Printify is adding things like personalization options through their system, the fact that they have been adding to the catalog nonstop. They are clearly investing in the platform, bringing out brand new inventory. They are creating early access products for us. I have seen expanded availability for them to connect us with embroidery printers. So I think there is some really big opportunity here with print on demand. If I were going to get started today on Etsy, would I go straight into print on demand? Honestly, if you have no background whatsoever with Etsy or with selling online, I personally would probably not advise to start print on demand first. I think having the understanding about Etsy's back end and how the shipping works, how all of its ins and outs works, is really key first, because even with the confidence I had there, when I jumped into Printify, I still didn't fully have the confidence to know and understand exactly where I should be making my edits, where I should be uploading my finalized files, and especially in terms of personalized products, I was just sure that I was going to be sending the wrong items or sample items to customers because it's a whole new beast. My last piece of advice for you today is that if you are going to get started on print on demand, head back to what I said earlier and pick a single product to dive into. Now, Comfort Color shirts and Bella Canvas shirts are incredibly popular and do sell really well, and are honestly two of the products that I started diving into with my print on demand shops. However, I might say that I would recommend to do something more like diving into a coffee mug, a phone case, tumblers, tote bags, notebooks, maybe candles, but essentially my thought there being something that is more giftable. So while you can give people shirts, it's less likely, depending on who they are, because you don't want to get the size wrong. You don't know whether the Etsy seller is going to let you return or exchange, especially if it's personalized, then you probably can't. And then you spend too much time spinning your wheels on how many colors should I offer? Did I show them enough in the mockups? Do my mockups look realistic? Did I align the graphic in the right place? And it takes a lot longer to be able to get your head around exactly what you're offering, and it's harder to put the blinders on. Whereas if you sit down and you decide you're going to do nothing but knock out keepsake ornaments for anniversaries, milestones, holidays, then you are setting yourself up for a much faster track. Hopefully, anybody out there that's been on the fence about print on demand or has been starting it themselves gets at least a little bit of a nugget of information out of this. I know it's been a little bit convoluted today. I apologize. Things have been so crazy here. My 3-year-old has his first stitches and they are right above his eye. And so I am dusting off the cobwebs for getting back to you and getting the pieces of Etsy advice in front of you in time for you to take advantage of them just when you need them most. And that said, I hope you join me for my next episode, which will be the end of March. So we are already at the end of first quarter. And in that episode, I will really do a deep analysis on first quarter, what I like to call the good, the bad, the ugly, everything I did, the trends I picked up on, the trends that I see heading for the second quarter, and exactly what products I'm going to be focusing on, what trends I'm going to be focusing on, and how I am going to put my blinders on to really take advantage of some of the upcoming second quarter huge Etsy opportunities. So again, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. Leave a note to let me know that you are listening, and make sure to join me in the next episode. Until then, goodbye.